Wow, thank you very much for your kind introduction, Dr. Sohn, and thank you to UBC, Korean Language Culture, and also UBC, not UBC, Korean Education Affairs section, Korean Consulate in Toronto. And I'm super excited to be here today. This is actually my very first time being in UBC. It hasn't been that long since I came to Vancouver. As Dr. Sohn introduced, I currently am doing my PhD at Saemi Nadine Jung University. Some may call your rival, I don't know. And I mean, the sun has come up, you know, what more things can you ask at this time of the year in Vancouver, right? So it's very meaningful for me to be here. So I hope that at the end of my portion of the talk, you can walk away with a kind of an idea, you know. So this is what Korean media industry is like. This is what I could expect if I end up working in South Korean media industry. So yeah, with that in mind, I am going to introduce you to the grand title of my presentation. It's called Mediascape of South Korea, Creative Seoul Examining Post-Pandemic Mediascape of South Korea. And I usually put much thoughts into the subtitle. And oftentimes, you know, when you try to find a job or a career that you really love, you're passionate about, we need to realize the world that we're living in right now changes so fast, right? Even really wonderful scholars or famous experts cannot even tell what's going to happen in the next 100 years. So we need to make sure that our soul, like our soul spirit, it has a double meaning, creative soul. We need to keep our soul very creative, keep it up to date. So I have talked to many younger generations. I may look young, but I actually am a little bit older than you. This is my very first time talking to non-Korean audience. I know that we have some Korean audience as well, but working in the South Korean media industry for about 10 years, I've met many students, from middle school students to as old as 20s, want to work for in the broadcasting station. So I really hope that this will be a meaningful time for you. So yeah, let's just jump right in. This is the agenda. We're going to have a brief overview of the post-pandemic broadcasting mediascape of South Korea because it has changed so much. And then we're going to talk about where our opportunities may lie. And then we will do a bit of a case studies of expat broadcasters, journalists in South Korea who are very active. And then we are going to talk about what can you do to increase your chances of working in the South Korean media industry. Sounds okay? Okay. Great. So let me start off with a question. I know some of you are already smiling and laughing. So there are 4 posters of these Korean content, right? What do you see as a commonality of these 4 posters right here?
K-dramas.
Yes, of course, K-dramas, of course. This is great, yes?
English on all of them.
They're all English. I guess you can put the subtitles in and you can change them.
I mean, like the advertising.
Oh, and the advertising. Yes, good observation. Great, yeah, thank you. What else? I mean, you can't have wrong answers here. Yes?
They're all or have been wildly popular in the last couple of years.
Yes, absolutely. Very, very well received, right? You had your hand up?
I was just going to say that they're like all looking at the audience.
Aha, yes, except the Parasite, right? Amazing. Do we have, yes, one more.
They tackle like a variety of like socially prevalent issues.
Yeah, social issues, yes, definitely. Very good observation. This is great. I mean, I was going to ask, you know, take a stab at it, you know, you can't be wrong, you know. Actually, the answer that I was thinking of, the direction that I wanted to take you more into is that all of these contents are being streamed at a particular platform that we all know called Netflix. Yes, great. Yes. So I mean, of course, before the pandemic, a lot of things were changing in the South Korean media industry because of lots of competition, as well as the rise of platforms and emergence of new techs. Before the pandemic, though, KBS, SBS, NBC are the more traditional legacy media that were predominantly operating and kind of playing within the media industry. And then we started having these 3 new pay media networks: TV Joseon, JTBC, Channel A. Those stations stemmed from the more traditional Korean written journalism businesses. Then, of course, we start having all these platforms that we haven't had before, right? This is only like, what, 5-6 years of phenomenon. We have Netflix, Prime Video, Disney+. Wave is a Korea's own OTT. And then, of course, we have YouTube. So with all of these various actors coming into the media industry, means that now we have a lot more various ways of engaging and producing and consuming media. And it's not only for Korean audience, but audience all across the world. So it becomes a transnational project for many Korean media agencies to produce any Korean content. For example, MBC News, it is one of the traditional legacy media in Korea. They have their own official channel here on YouTube, and just like CNN, CNBC or CBC, I guess here. And Enturu Maturu, I wonder if any of you watches any of the content from MBC entertainment channel. So they reproduce any of the content that they broadcast on live TV, and then they post them on official channels like this. So this not only increases their different ways of getting more revenue, but also it is a way of engaging and getting more audience from outside Korea. So some of the key characteristics that I wanted to kind of like touch upon before we get into the juicy part of where are my opportunities. So we have to keep in mind that South Korea is a highly developed media ecosystem, which is very much based on the internet. So internet is key, which is why 90% of the areas that you go to in Korea, you will have access to some sort of Wi-Fi, including subways. And 1/5 of the Korean population uses what is called IPTV, Internet Protocol TV. So the IPTV is very popular because it not only allows users to watch at their will, but they can also choose different contents at their own time and rewatch, store in a different set-top box. And yeah, as we pointed out, Korean content becomes a transnational project from the get-go, from the production stage. And then it is now very often what we see is that some of the Korean dramas that we saw, The Glory or the Squid Game, Extroadinary, those content get released in different platforms at the same time. So that's what we call multi-platform release. And this is a new trend that we are seeing post-pandemic. And that has changed a lot of the industry workers in the media, how they approach different actors, especially when they try to get to different countries, different audiences outside of Korea. So this is basically what I wanted to kind of briefly touch upon in our limited time. And let's talk about the juicy stuff, right? So where are your opportunities in this kind of mediascape? So yeah, there's a picture of me, like almost 7 years ago. There's Eric Nam, who is a popular K-pop star. So I thought it would be really helpful to know what kind of places that you can imagine yourself working in. So if you are feeling comfortable with working in English-speaking broadcasting stations, you can feel free to take a photo of this slide too. Arirang TV and Radio. Who has heard of Arirang TV and Radio? Oh wow, a lot. Wow, amazing. Yeah, so Arirang TV was actually the station that I had my debut on live broadcasts, and they have various radio channels where they invite non-Korean guest reporters, panelists. So that station is a great place to work in. TBS EFM as well. It's entirely English programming with various radio shows, KBS World and TVN Radio. We talked about KBS as one of the main legacy media. And then AFN is American Forces Network that has 2 radio networks, both AM and FM. So news, music, common interest radio, programs all running in English. No worries. And then there is the journalism side. If you're more into writing and being more involved in journalism, Korea Herald is a very famous Korean English newspaper that started in 1953. And they also source a lot of stuff from CNN and AP News, and they collaborate a lot with other stations all across the world. Yeonam News Agency as well. You can work as a correspondent for CNN, New York Times, Reuters, CNBC in South Korea as well. And oftentimes what happens in big conglomerate companies like Hanwha, Samsung, SK Hynix, Hyundai, Kia, they have their own in-house broadcasting stations. So they make content for their own employees, and a lot of the times some of the employees are also from across the world. So they have interesting cultural programs. So that's where conglomerate broadcasting stations. That's one place that we could think of. And then I thought it would be interesting to have some sort of a case studies. Do you recognize any of these people, by the way? Yeah. So here, 영국 남자 Korean Englishman is a very I guess one time it was kind of controversial, but I mean it's still a popular channel where 영국 남자 Josh and Ollie, they are introducing lots of Korean content on YouTube. So content creator provider is one way of engaging in to meet Korean media, Korean culture. And then of course you can work as a cultural ambassador, news journalism, popular TV shows, like where this is non-summit. In Korean we say 비정상회담. It used to be very, very popular in South Korea. And all these celebrities now, Tyler and Ilya, they are very well known and they're very active in various fields in South Korea right now. So let's do a little bit of a case study. So Daniel Lindemann, he was also one of the core members in 비정상회담 in Non-Summit, that program that we just talked about. So he came to South Korea as an exchange student at Yonsei University. He did his MA in Korean Studies, Yonsei. And he first starred in 비정상회담 Non-Summit in 2014, and his career kind of kickstarted from there. And now he's expanding his career by doing book tours. He's a pianist, he plays piano, so he released piano albums. He engages himself with various public interest activities as well. So as you can see, he does his, in Korean, we call it talk concert, he does many mentoring sessions. And another person that I thought would be interesting to look at is Tyler. He's an American student who came to Korea, and then he did his MA in International Relations at Seoul National University. He also joined Non-Summit, 비정상회담, with Daniel, and now he wrote 2 books on environmental conservation. He does online English educational videos. He used to own his own media company, and now he also works as an artist. So there are so many different ways you can kind of expand your career by starting at a specific particular role in media. So with the limit, I'm very conscious of time right now. How to increase your opportunities. The commonality that we see in a lot of non-Korean citizens who work in media industry, or the people that I also personally met while I was working, is that they all came to Korea for an exchange program or some sort of co-op program. They started off their Korean sort of journey, learn more about Korean culture, familiarize yourself with the Korean culture, Korean system, and get to know more about Korea as a society. And then you start looking at which industry that I want to work in, right? The most important thing whenever you try to put your first step into certain industry is that you gotta have a good map of where I'm getting into, right? So you need to study really hard on what kind of industry that I want to get into. And for media, it is extremely important that you gotta have some sort of an online presence. I mean, I run my own YouTube channel as well. That's just for my own joy, not for anything else. But for anyone who is involved in media industry, you have to have some sort of a platform, blog, YouTube, to have your voice heard. That's the way how it's shaped right now. I am not so for this whole like self-entrepreneurial thing, you know, but it is how it is. It is what it is in the media industry. So social media platforms, share your work online. There are so many ways that you can do podcasts, you can do YouTube, you can do TikTok right now. So yeah, and then some of the most popular online forums that you can get a lot of the sources, job opportunities, are Naver and Down cafes. There are a lot of Naver Down cafes where you can get lots of job opportunity information, and also there are some information regarding reenactment actor and actresses. So one interesting anecdote that I could share with one of my other colleagues who was involved in reenactment acting, he said that he's just a very regular 9-to-5 type of a job guy, and then one day he was on this online cafe and then he saw this info about auditioning for reenactment actor, and then he was like, okay, let me just like try it. He tried it, and he's still doing it right now. It's sort of like his side gig, and he loves it. So yeah, so that's something that we can always think about as well. And cold emailing, I know it's daunting to think about cold emailing, but I do this to this day on LinkedIn or through official homepage websites. I mean, of course, it doesn't always work, but there are some responses that you do get. So I highly recommend it. Just at this stage, you have to be really active in many ways to increase your opportunities. So yeah, we're running out of time, and I want to make sure that it's oftentimes more generative when I stop talking and I hear from you. So if you have any questions, yeah, we can jump into Q&A right now. So thank you for listening so far, and yeah, let's. That was my last slide. Yeah. Honestly, yes.
Could you elaborate on like the cold emails part? Like how do you go about doing that when you have like a small?
Yeah. Oftentimes what helps is that let me give you an example of LinkedIn, right? So if I know A is the person that I want to communicate with, but I have a friend, B, who is also friends with A. I could see that on LinkedIn. Then I sort of mention B in my, short email or short message to A, saying that, oh, I have worked with B for many, many years, and I've heard a lot of good things, good work about your area, and I'm interested in, kind of navigating my way into that industry right now. Do you have some time for a coffee or coffee chat or even online? That's okay. That kind of message. Sometimes it doesn't work, sometimes it works. So for me, I think when I was navigating my transition from media or broadcasting career to PhD, which was a very drastic transition, when I was cold emailing all these PhD students or PhD candidates in the different countries, I think my success rate was about 40%, which is not bad. Which is not bad. So you just have to try. You never know.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What else? Yes.
What prompted you to come to Vancouver to pursue academia instead of like focusing on like the Mediascape in South Korea? And do you plan on going back to South Korea and going the Mediascape after you graduate?
It's really interesting. William, who is the second speaker, he also asked me that very question. To address the first question, I worked in the broadcasting station. I worked in the broadcasting industry for about 9 years. So about 7th and 8th year, I felt like, because I really loved what I was doing. I was really passionate about my job, and I really loved every second of being live at the news desk. But by the 7th and 8th year, I felt like my full potential was reached, and I wanted some new avenues to, how can I grow from here? How can I expand my voice? And also, I mean, it's sad to say, but as a female news anchor, I did feel like there were times that I couldn't speak everything that I wanted to speak. So that kind of made me want to explore more of the academic side. And also, I've always wanted to learn. I love learning, and I also learn a lot from anybody that I meet. So that's my answer for the first question. Second question, I don't know. I mean, I wonder if you guys saw the first slide. I mean, so far I've lived in 5 different cities across the world, 3 different continents. I feel blessed that I was able to do that, but it's also, I didn't plan those things. You never know how things will unfold. I mean, that's the kind of the beauty of life, but also it's really daunting, right? Yeah, so it was really interesting. When I did my master's in the UK, the person who was trying to give me UK student visa, he asked me, so you worked in the broadcasting industry and you're trying to study media and communication in the UK. How does that relate? I'm like, do you not know what broadcasting means and media and communication mean, you know? How do you not see the relation there? And also, I was just trying to explain that, you know, this is all relevant to what I'm trying to do for my bigger vision. And then at the end, I was like, look, you know, life unfolds in the most unexpected ways. What else can I say, you know? And then he was like, okay. So, yeah. Sometimes you just have to be open with your heart and see how things unfold. Yeah. Yes?
I kind of find this question awkward, like I'm still asking this. Most of the time when we think about media, especially Korean media, age also becomes a little bit of an important role. For example, let's say even auditioning for a K-pop idol group, let's say Hyde is doing great right now. The age limit is, they have said the people who were born after 2005. I mean, I never get this point, like, okay, I understand they want dancers to go for it, but then a person who was born in 2004, like even in 2000, like, he is not old.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this age group, sometimes this becomes a very daunting thing for majority of people like us. Like, even if someone who's coming from India, someone who's very much passionate about K-pop and like K-dramas and specifically in Korean culture, if I want to think about getting into Korean media, I just get afraid of it because I know that after I just graduate from UBC, I'll be 22. And I don't know.
Oh, come on! I started my broadcasting career when I was 26. So, you're like 4 years younger than I.
This just like haunts me. Like, if I want to get into K-pop, like, I love music, I love dancing. If I want to get into anything like that, I don't know that I'd be able to get it.
So I think we need to make a distinguishment right here. K-pop industry is very different from some of the media or the broadcasting side that I was talking about. Definitely there is a certain age restriction with K-pop or idol debut type of career, right? But with media, things have changed so much in Korean mediascape too. Like 30, 40 years ago, only traditionally conceived pretty looking person or handsome person, only those people could star in TV. But nowadays, those with really great, bright mind who can really talk about some things that were not said before. Those are the kind of talents that we are trying to look for in media or broadcasting in general. So age really doesn't matter. So with announcer figures or for news anchor position, there's a fine line. There is a fine line, especially if you are a woman in South Korea. But in general, to become a broadcaster or a panelist or being involved in media in general doesn't really matter, as long as you can really speak what is not heard before. It needs to be creative, like going back to that creative soul, right? Yeah, sorry, I'm very conscious of time, so yeah, we take the last question. I hope that answers your question. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes.
I'm just curious about like the work culture. You talked a little bit about like after spending like 10 years in the broadcasting industry, you had a little bit of burnout, or you just weren't quite sure. But for us, I feel like it's very glamorized going to work abroad, no matter where it is. But like, what is a sort of culture shock you see us sort of experiencing with Korean work culture?
First thing, I'm just going to be really quick. First thing, there is this culture called 회식. I wonder if, yeah. So it is a bit of an element that really kind of threw me off, but it is what it is, and it is still there. A lot has changed in a very positive way. So, and also this kind of like hierarchy that in Korea, it exists. So that's why it is very important that once you go to Korea, really familiarizing yourself with the culture, with the mind, with the norms is very important, because the culture shock that I experienced was so huge, and that could, I don't want you to experience that. So I just wish that we had a little bit more time, but if you have more questions, I'm very much willing to answer any emails. If you send me emails through here, right there, then I can try to get back to you hopefully within 7 days. Yeah, but yeah, I think we ran out of time. So thank you so much for everything. Thank you.